There were two civil wars before the South gained independence. I guess you could say two coups make a Sudan.
Hey guys, alright, today we are watching South Sudan, the world's newest country by Salmonella, Salmonella Academy. Are they still the newest country in the world? Because this video is a few years old now? Is it 3 or 4 years old now? Forgot to check. But I don't know much about South Sudan. So let's learn, and let's also see what kind of shit Salmonella says in this video. I'm gonna lead off with "Hey kids."
Hey kids,
Fucking called it.
today I'm going to talk about South Sudan. It's the newest country in the world, becoming fully independent just in 2011. So I'm going to explain why the state came into being and what it's like there today. So to understand why South Sudan exists, you kind of have to know a bit about Sudan as a whole. So before 1956, Sudan was under the joint control of Egypt and Britain. At the end of 1955, they gave a declaration of independence and became their own thing.
What the fuck?
The independence movement, however, was led by this guy, Ismail al-Azhari, and he was like, hey everybody, we are an Arab-oriented Muslim nation. But then like 8 million Sudanese black people were like, whoa now, hold your camels, Ishmael. Us Africans, we ain't all about your Allah. He was like, yeah, well who cares? Oh, I see. So they got into a civil war between the primarily Arab-Muslim North and the traditionally oriented African South. That went on for...
Yeah, so, this is something I can kind of add on about. When Muhammad's caliphate rose to power, and then obviously the caliphate under his descendants, and then the Umayyads, and then the Abbasids, mainly the Umayyads, because the Umayyads saw the greatest extent to the empire, the Abbasids did not control as much as the Umayyads did. The Umayyad Caliphate they followed a belief in which the Arabs would be like the top dogs of the class system inside the Islamic Caliphate in the 700s, 800s. My timeline is a little off, probably. But so the Umayyads, the Arab Muslims would be ones that typically had administrative power and such. So what you could see as the empire spread is like a movement of the Arabic peoples throughout the empire. And in situations like here with Sudan, since Sudan is fairly close to Arabia, where literally it just has like Egypt in terms of land. Egypt's like the only country separating it from Arabia, but if we just go by sea, it's just got the Red Sea. That's what it's called, right? That's the Red Sea there, I think, separating it from Arabia. So fairly close. And so, yeah, you get these situations where you have certain parts of the countries, obviously, with certain populations that are different than the other side of the country, because Sudan is further north, closer to what would have been the center of the Umayyad Caliphate, and thus that's kind of probably where this is me just kind of guessing using context and what I understand of the region to take an educated guess at why northern Sudan, or what is just Sudan, is predominantly Arabic, and while South Sudan maintained the more African roots. With Sudan being more north, closer to the administrative capital, then it makes sense that they would be more Arabic, right? Just because of how population works. With the minority class, as the empire spread out and maintained more people inside it, the ruling class, as you get further out, probably spread out less. So, Arabs were more likely to be found in northern Sudan than southern Sudan, but certainly some would probably go down there. I don't know why I went off on that tangent. I've just been learning about the Islamic caliphates lately in one of my classes. One of my classes right now is literally a early Islamic history class. So I've been learning about them, and I kind of want to share the information I've been learning because I've actually been really enjoying the class. So, anyways, back to South Sudan.
16 years until finally the North's like, alright, fine, you can do your thing. Like, you're still part of Sudan, but you can govern yourself for the most part. We'll take our falafels elsewhere. And that peace treaty lasted 11 years, from 1972 to 1983. Eventually, the South was like, well, things aren't that bad now, but the Arabs still technically control us, so it could get worse. And I'm not in the mood for any Sharia law anytime soon, so we should probably go back to fighting. So then there was another civil war, which was basically a continuation of the first one, and that ran on from 1983 all the way to 2005,
Jesus
when finally
Christ.
the two sides made a comprehensive peace agreement, which led to South Sudan becoming totally self-governing in 2006. Then after 5 more years of fiddling around with paperwork, South Sudan became a fully fledged independent nation in 2011.
Nice.
So notice how there were 2 civil wars before the South gained independence. I guess you could say 2 coups make a Sudan.
I agree with it, with that reaction.
So, now that they finally got what they want, it must be great to live in South Sudan now, right? No, not really. It's actually
Yeah.
just about the worst place you could ever choose to live in. Seriously,
no.
if somebody gave me the choice of moving to South Sudan or living the rest of my life with my dick inside an anthill, I'd be slathering on the honey before they even finish their sentence. Let me talk about a few reasons South Sudan sucks so bad. First, let me talk about ethnic groups. Europe,
no.
as we all know, contains a lot of ethnic groups. Scots, Serbs, Slovaks, Slovenes, Spaniards, Swedes. And those are just the big ones that start with S. There's like 100 others. The same is true with Africa. There are thousands of localized ethnic groups sprinkled all over the continent, whether or not you could tell from first glance. As such, South Sudan is home to a bunch of different peoples, each with their own language.
So how this came to be is because of Africa's geography. Little geography lesson here. Because of the terrain of Africa, much of African lands are not necessarily built for sustained, permanent civilization. Because they don't have too many mountain ranges, a lot of the territory in Africa shifts with the seasons, like what lands could be deemed, I guess, habitable and good for farming. They kind of shift a bit through the seasons and year to year. They're not so what happens is what used to happen is that the African tribes would move with the seasons to stay in the better, more hospitable and habitable lands. So, that movement meant that they couldn't really there weren't many permanent civilizations that stayed in one place, unlike European countries and also Asian countries, in which they had the mountain ranges and the climate to where they could reasonably settle down, start communities, and focus purely on farming and not much on moving around. Like, for instance, the American natives, even though Americas themselves does have the land and the mountain ranges and the climate to maintain permanent civilization, but for some reason the Native Americans, the natives of America, did not really do that in most cases. They maintained a moving society in the plains and whatnot. But yeah, I can't remember what video. I think it was literally a video titled Africa's Geography or something. Why it sucks or something. I don't know. Or I can't remember what the video. I think it was by a channel that literally has geography in the name. I can't remember. But it was an interesting video, and I still remember the information from it. And it does make sense as to why, also these ethnic groups get put into these borders that were made by the European colonizing nations. and why there are so many issues today, because these are groups that don't get along or have different societal goals. And then obviously the way government works, one ethnic group might get more power than the other, and that doesn't always go out too well with the other ethnic groups, and then you have fighting, as probably what we're going to be hearing about here in South Sudan.
And customs. And these groups have a long history of disagreeing with each other.
Yep.
Like, they don't get along much. So that's one thing. Second, remember how South Sudan was at war with the North for basically all of the past half a century? Well, as a result, the whole place is pretty geared for war and not much else. Their infrastructure is abysmal, and they've got all these guns just lying around waiting to be shot at something. Third, South Sudan has a bunch of oil reserves in different locations around the nation. And we all know how much people like oil. Everybody wants control of whatever wells they can get.
Yep.
So between these three things, the whole place is basically one big whirlpool of chaos. At any given time, the South Sudan government is at war with at least 7 different armed groups from around the country, each of which is also at war with the other groups. And if that's not enough of a shitstorm, the government ended up basically splitting in two in 2013.
What?
This is what happened. So you've got the president, his name is Salva Kiir, and yes, he does actually wear a hat like this. It was a gift from George Bush, true story. And then the vice president, his name is Riek Machar. I'm probably saying those wrong, but it's fine. They don't have internet in South Sudan, so nobody can call me out here. So anyway, Salva Kiir, he's very aware of the fact that the country's in a very precarious spot at the moment. So he starts taking greater control of the government and the military, dismissing old people and installing those that he sees fit. And so Riek Machar, he's like, well, gee whiz, Salva Kiir, for someone who calls himself a president, that's pretty dictatory of you. Well, for someone who calls himself the vice president, that's pretty annoying assholey of you. Sir, all I'm saying is, I'm getting pretty sick of you and that gay hat of yours. I'm not wearing a hat. As president of South Sudan, I order you to put on a hat. Yeah, see? That hat's gay. You're wearing the exact same hat. Alright, fuck you, you're out of a job. Wait, what? Yep, you and your whole cabinet, get out. Okay, I made up the part about the hat, but the rest of that is true. Also, I should mention that Kiir and Machar come from 2 different ethnic groups. See, Kiir is a Dinka, whereas Machar is a Nuer, which only heightened the tensions between the two. So after Machar got the boot, he ended up taking a chunk of the military with him, most of which were Nuers like him. And they started a rebellion against Kiir's government.
Oh boy.
This is known as the South Sudan Civil War, and it's still going on to this day. So yeah, to sum it up, if you looked up clusterfuck in the dictionary, well, you wouldn't find anything because clusterfuck isn't a real word. But if it was, there would probably be a picture of South Sudan next to it. Seriously,
we need to make
this
it
place
an
makes
official
Hotel
word.
Rwanda look like Hotel California. And throughout it all, there's still a bunch of hardworking...
By the way, Hotel Rwanda is a good fucking movie. I love it. I obviously do not love the events that took place. Obviously, genocide is bad, but the movie is a good quality movie.
Individuals
make sure
just trying
I
to
make
make a
myself
living,
clear there.
farming or herding or whatever. But the constant warfare makes it so the average person has to live in virtually Stone Age conditions, which sucks, but, what can you do? So that's the story of the world's newest nation, kids. Till next time, I'm Sam and Nella, and thank you for watching.
Huh. Well, certainly learned about South Sudan there. I have nothing else to add that I haven't already said in the video, so we're just going to leave it there. Remember to leave a suggestion down below for what you want to see me react to next, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Thank you.